It's April 2nd. This is the second video in a two-part series. Welcome to YesToHellWith.com. The prosecution often builds its case not upon proof of a guilty mind, but upon emotion. They know that the jurors file tax returns. They know the jurors struggle to pay their bills. They know some of the jurors pay child support. They know some jurors may resent anyone who appears not to comply. So the prosecution quietly appeals to those emotions. Why doesn't he pay his fair share? They ask. Why should he be different from everyone else? If I have to file, why doesn't he? He must be hiding money. He must be selfish. He must be lying. And if there is an issue like child support, unpaid debts, or financial problems, those facts may be used to suggest that the man is irresponsible, evasive, or dishonest. And none of that proves mens rea. A man may owe child support and still sincerely believe that no federal tax duty applies to him. A man may have financial struggles and still honestly believe what he believes. A man may be disliked by the jury and still be innocent of willfully violating a known legal duty. The danger is that the jury begins to punish the man not because the government proved the guilty mind, but because the jurors emotionally identify with compliance. The jurors may think, I file, why doesn't he? I obey, why doesn't he? I pay, why shouldn't he? But that is not the legal question. The question is not whether the jurors comply. The question is not whether the jurors think the defendant should comply. The question is not whether the jurors dislike him. The question is whether the government proved beyond a reasonable doubt that this particular man intentionally violated a legal duty that he knew applied to him. That requires proof of a clear, coherent, deliberate mental state, not emotion, not resentment, not envy. Not the assumption that because most people comply, then every man who does not comply must therefore be guilty. The jury may realize this man did not hide, he did not evade, he did not act recklessly. He studied, he questioned, he sought answers, he tried to understand. And a man who sincerely seeks the truth is not the same as a man who knowingly breaks the law. The danger becomes even greater if the court prevents the jurors from fully understanding just how difficult, perhaps nearly impossible, it is to prove mens rea. Because if the jury never learns the difference between actus reus and mens rea, if the jury never understands that the government must prove what was actually in the man's mind, if the jury is never allowed to see the years of study, the letters, the questions, the doubts, and the sincere belief, then the jury may convict not because the law was proven, but because fear was created. And that fear serves a larger purpose. The system wants a warning, a lesson, a poster child. The system wants fear. The system wants you to fear. A man placed before the public so that every other American will think, I'd better comply. I had better not ask questions. I had better not study too deeply. I had better not challenge what I've been told. That is how an April Fear campaign works. Every year, the IRS, the federal government, they conduct a fear campaign. Not by proving the guilty mind, but by creating the appearance of guilt and then using that appearance to frighten everyone else into silence and compliance. They find themselves a poster child to post on the internet, newspapers, radio, TV, to sensationalize, to keep the American public as slaves in their mentality and their heart set, compliant, forever compliant, never questioning. The message becomes, look what happened to him. Don't be next. But fear is not proof, and an example made for the sake of compliance is not justice. True justice requires that the jury understand the law completely. True justice requires the jury to understand that actus reus is not enough. True justice requires the jury to understand that without proof of mens rea, without proof of the intentional violation of a known legal duty, there is no crime. That is where the liberty dialogues matter, because the liberty dialogues force the government to answer the questions they do not want to answer. What is the precise legal duty? What authority created that legal duty? What status causes it to apply? What facts prove that this man knew it and applied to him personally? Not presumed, not implied, but proved. Because the government cannot simply say he failed to file, therefore he's guilty. No, they must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he intentionally violated a known legal duty. They must prove the mens rea, not merely the actus reus. And if there is no mens rea, there is no damn actus reus. And if they cannot prove what was in his mind, then all they have left is their damn presumption. The system depends upon that very presumption. Do not let them have it. Document your studies, preserve your letters, preserve your questions, preserve your good faith beliefs. Because one day the difference between freedom and prison may come down to whether you can prove what you truly believe. We must become more discerning. We must listen carefully to the words they use. We must examine their meanings. We must ask what is really being said and what is being hidden. Because words like willfulness, known legal duty, intentional violation, compliance, and even justice can be twisted and stretched and used to create the appearance of guilt where no guilty mind exists in the first place. We must look beyond the prestige of the government, their damn prestige, beyond the robes, beyond the titles, beyond the seal on the wall. Because authority is not proven by appearance. Authority is not proven by repetition. Authority is not proven merely because the government says so. Whenever the system attempts to impose its will presumptively upon an innocent and unaware American people, it is our duty to stop, to think, to question, and to require proof. That is our duty. That is our solemn duty to ourselves and to our posterity and to the American Republic. That is our duty to all of our families. We must not surrender our minds. We must not surrender our judgment. We must not allow fear, prestige, or presumption to replace truth. Because if we do not insist upon the meaning of words, then others will use those words and their meanings against us. And if we do not insist upon proof, then presumption will rule in place of justice. So let us stand firm, let us question deeply, and require clarity, demand proof, preserve the record. And for God's sake, as always, may truth reign supreme.